Joanne, welcome to the Digi Dialogue Roundtable Information Session. I need to shorten the name, but until then, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, first off, can you share a little bit of background as to who JoAnn Holmes is? A little bit of personal, if you so choose, and professional background.
Sure. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today with you and everyone who listens in and watches the show. My name is JoAnn Holmes. Most often I go by Jo. If I'm called Joanne, I might be in trouble, so I'll try to stick with Jo today. I am an intellectual property and digital assets attorney. I manage IP in about 140 countries around the world, and I focus my work on helping clients in Web3 and blockchain technology. And what that looks like on a day-to-day basis is really supporting innovators and creators around designing meaningful and engaging Web3 offers, giving them a little peace at mind on legal issues as they're launching their products and services in the Web3 space, and then coming alongside those who have organizations that are scaling and growing to support them with both legal and strategic guidance. I'm really a person who feels very strongly, having practiced law for 23 years now, that this new innovation is an opportunity to grow more wealth, particularly among women and people of color. And with the background that I have in intellectual property, I'm very focused on inviting women into this space so that you know that you have talent, that you belong here, that your talents and gifts are needed in this space. So that unlike earlier phases of the internet, there's really a more diverse, more rich, more comprehensive group of people who are sharing to make this technology work for all of us. On a more personal note, I'm a mom of a recent college graduate. We are both Stanford alum now, which is new and fun for us and our family. And I love to garden. It's a great sort of counter set from practicing law. And I live in the metropolitan Atlanta area.
Thank you for that. Wow. I wanted to share that I heard, and well, I was going to say met you, but we didn't meet. I heard you on a podcast as well. Stacy put a comment in the chat. She thinks she's heard you on another podcast. And the podcast I heard you on was Natalie Ekdahl's Biz Chicks. Anyone who knows me, I can't share it enough. That particular podcast, bizchix.com. Natalie is brilliant. Your conversation about 3.0, usually I would kind of zone out with that topic, but what you had to say perked my attention immediately as a small business owner, as a woman who owns a small business. So I thought, I'm going to reach out. I found you on LinkedIn. I invited you to the session and you said yes. So thank you so much for being here. So let's just get right into the nitty gritty. What the heck is Web 3.0?
Sure. Okay, so let's kind of give a little bit of history for some context to how we got here. If we think about Web 1, that was really something where there was an opportunity to read information online, and that was about it. We were excited, for example, to be able to go online and maybe read a newspaper that we might have physically held in our hands before. Web 2 was really very much catapulted by mobile technology and also by moving from just read to read write. We started to be able to communicate with each other through the internet. And so we had very centralized companies like Facebook and Amazon and Google, where we were sharing information or we were coming together in marketplaces, but all of the value really was accruing to those companies and their shareholders. In Web 3, the next turn is from read with Web 1, read write with Web 2 to read write own. And what's really exciting about this space is There are so many opportunities for people to really take out that middleman and that layer of an intermediary who, let's say, for example, you're a small business owner and you built up a presence on Facebook and Facebook changed the algorithm, or Instagram changed to look more like TikTok than the way that Instagram had looked historically. And then that impacts your outreach to your community. What Web3 is designed to do is really to first and foremost respect that community, engage with them directly, and help them feel like meaningful participants. And in some circumstances, depending on the blockchain-based technology that's being used, also have an ownership stake, be that in a business that you believe in or in supporting a creator, a musician, a business owner, someone who you follow or whose products and services you use, and you want to be more than a follower. You want to be an engaged participant in that community.
So I want to approach two rabbit holes, not go too deep into them, but two things that come to mind, and remind our in-studio guests, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. IP, intellectual property. I want to definition, explain that a little bit more, what that might look like, and blockchain. What the heck is that?
Sure. Okay, so intellectual property is an umbrella term for things that we all interact with every day. There are trademarks, which are brands, logos, and slogans. So an example of that would be Nike. Nike is a brand name. The swoosh is the logo, and the slogan is just do it. Okay, so those are trademarks. They identify products and services. Then we have copyrights, and copyrights are the way that we protect films, music, sculpture, art, even software is all protected under copyright. It's effectively the way that we protect creative works. And then another facet of intellectual property are patents. So there is probably a patent that exists in the innovation that makes it possible for us to talk to each other from all over the country through video chat technology right now. And then there are trade secrets. Trade secrets are things like the Coca-Cola formula or the Google algorithm that give a competitive business advantage by virtue of the fact that they're secret and there's limited access to that competitive advantage asset. So again, trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets are all facets of intellectual property. And small business owners, as well as large multinational corporations, all own different types of intellectual property. So if we move to blockchain technology, that is really something that is interchangeable with the term Web3. And blockchain technology really includes 5 pillars. Those pillars are cryptocurrencies. So some folks might have heard of Bitcoin or ETH or others. All of those are just the currency of open source computer networks. The second pillar of blockchain technology is decentralized finance. So whereas we have ways that you can use collateral to take out a loan, or ways that you can earn yield, for example, through a savings account, there is an entire corollary of our traditional financial system within blockchain technology. Again, that's called DeFi. The third is called NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. And NFTs are 2 things. They're a node, or excuse me, a token on a blockchain, which is just a deed of a certificate of authenticity or a deed of ownership. So just like you have a deed of ownership to your car, or you have a certificate of authenticity that a piece of art is an original from that artist, that token or deed or certificate of authenticity relates to something. It could relate to digital art. It could relate to sports memorabilia. It could relate to a house. There are actually houses that have been purchased now here in the United States using NFTs. The fourth is something called DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. And they are really interesting because they are ways for people all over the world to be able to come together in a newer form of an LLC or a corporation around a common purpose. And so you might have a DAO of women business owners who want to fund a scholarship for perhaps a young woman in the developing world to be able to get an education. Or you could have a DAO that's the new version of, let's say, an investment club. So DAOs can come together for a number of reasons. And then the fifth and final pillar is the metaverse. So anyone who, for example, has a young person in your life who maybe plays Roblox or World of Warcraft or Minecraft, all of those are metaverse worlds. There are ways that we interact with one another digitally. And then the transition from, let's say, Roblox, where all of the assets in that are owned by the corporation that created that metaverse world, in Web3 and in blockchain technology, you will be able to own the skins and the emotes and the weapons and so forth that your children might be using. But if they move out of Roblox, those digital assets have no value outside of that one ecosystem. Again, going back to the ethos of Web3, it's around ownership. And so those same worlds in a Web3 context would have a value that it can appreciate or depreciate like other assets.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if our in-studio guest is like, whoa, this is amazing. And that's why when I heard your conversation on the other podcast, I'm like, okay, this is fascinating, because we know this technology changes with a blink of an eye, right? So what was yesterday might not be now, and certainly won't be tomorrow. But I think what got my curiosity going is how small businesses should be paying attention to this. Now, I'm thinking, I don't do blockchains, I don't do Bitcoin in my business, right? Or will I be doing Bitcoin? I don't know. So can you take all of that, if you will, and explain how small business owners like myself could leverage it to, I don't know, build relationships with potential customers? Like, what would that look like?
That's a brilliant question, Denise. And this is actually where I focus my practice, is around, there's a lot of conversation around large organizations like Nike, for example, or Adidas and others, who are thinking about how to have an initial foray. Disney, for example, last fall issued NFT collections for some of their Marvel properties and other intellectual property characters in the Disney collection. So we hear some talk, those of us who are in this space every day, around how large brands are moving into the space. But I think it's very important to talk to small business owners and mid-sized business owners around how you move into Web3. And one of the reasons why that's so important is there are also examples with large businesses where they've tried something gimmicky and it's been harmful to their reputation. So the first principle in this space is to be authentic within whatever you're designing. Be authentic, but then also to really have a consistent communication stream with your community. So if you are a small business owner, your community are the people who buy your products. If you're a podcaster, they might be the people who consistently listen to your podcast. I like to give real world examples. So let's say you own a wine store, and you know that you have a unique collection of wine such that you're really finding great cadence with your local community, but you think that there might be others who would enjoy the collection that you've curated in your wine store as well. You might say, okay, I'm going to issue an NFT. Again, an NFT is a non-fungible token. And what it effectively is it could be a lot of things depending on how you design it. But in this scenario, we're going to say it's a way to reward loyal members. So you might have a loyalty program, and an NFT might be a nice piece of art that shows Tuscany in Italy, for example. And when someone owns that NFT, it is a gateway to a set of benefits. Those benefits might be a monthly in-store wine tasting. It might be a set of a subscription where a bottle of wine gets delivered to your home every month. It might be a once a year tour of, let's say, a vineyard in Napa Valley in California. So you really listen to your community and think about what is already causing people to be my customers and come back and buy from me over and over again. And then you think, what additional value can I offer to them to keep them invested in the community, right? And so you might take it from that NFT into a DAO, again, or a decentralized autonomous organization. And that DAO might be your focus group. And the members of that DAO might be in your local community, but they might be in the states that surround. So I, for example, am based in Georgia. I might have people in Tennessee or North and South Carolina or Florida who I invite to be members of the DAO so that I can start to expand my regional footprint with more people who I'm sending out that monthly bottle of wine to, or maybe I start to develop regional events to get folks out and interact with other wine connoisseurs in the Southeast. So it's really going from the pushing from the top down to a more communicative conversation ongoing with your community around providing value to them to keep them involved, and then listening to them to hear what they want. And so rather than having, let's say, a card that traditionally maybe someone stuck in their wallet or a digital version of a card, this NFT is maybe a nice piece of art in and of itself. But if someone says, okay, I had my season of life where I loved wine and I'd like to move on to whiskey or bourbon, then if, let's say, you only issued 50 of those, then they can take that asset and sell it to someone else, right? And if you've done a great job as the creator of this membership, then the word is going to get out. If there are only 50 of those NFTs, someone has got to be willing to sell their NFT for someone else to be able to come in and have all these fabulous benefits. And so then those people who are your truest fans effectively become your marketing team, because they're telling their friends and their network about how great it is to be a member of this DAO or a holder of your NFT, because they feel so invested, engaged, and rewarded. And that is a way that you do not do something gimmicky, but it's an example of listening to your existing customer base, thinking about how you can add value to them, and designing a way for them to give you feedback to continue to feel invested and provide more and more value that's enriching your business at the same time.
I love that. That example just explained it all to me. And
Good.
I assume the other folks in the Zoom room, I hope that was helpful too. That definitely helped me understand this a little bit more. What kind of trends do you see coming up, in Web 3.0?
I think that for those like myself who are early into this space, we all self-educated, and we did that through things like podcasts and YouTube and reading articles and finding the other geeks in this space who were excited about the technology. But those of us who have this footing, I think whatever you are designing or developing, there's a responsibility to educate, because what people might hear on the news, for example, is that Bitcoin was used for ransom, for some horrible purpose. What they're not hearing are the examples, for example, with cryptocurrency, of people being able to send remittances back to their family overseas and be able to cut out, again, the middleman fees of Western Union. They're not hearing about the examples of the young people who are able to develop digital art and sell it in a marketplace, and then have a global community who buy that artwork and who support those new and emerging artists. And the take rate on the sale of that art is 2.5% versus the traditional 50% at a Christie's or a Sotheby's. So there's not the education that has happened yet. And in many ways, as someone who started my career at the advent of e-commerce and the internet, in the late 90s and early 2000s, when people were coming into awareness of what we could do through that technology, there were many people who said, I would never put my banking information online. I would never put my credit card information online. I would never go stay at a stranger's house through something called Airbnb, or get in a stranger's car through something called Lyft, right? And so what we did was, we had the early movers, and we had an education campaign effectively through marketing, and we showed larger and larger and larger communities the value of the ways that we could use this technology to build on what we knew. It was a step change in impact to go from postal mail to email. Some things were disrupted. It was a step change impact to go from 11:59 trying to get that video back to Blockbuster to being able to stream through your phone on Netflix, right? And people needed to be taught and educated, and in many ways handheld. And businesses from, again, the enterprise, international, corporate level down to small and mid-sized businesses needed to see, how can I use this technology to have resonance, to grow revenue, to add new products and services for my customer or my client base. So when I think about the trends, I think the trends first have to be around education so that people can see, why does any of this matter in my life? And then I think there's going to need to be experimentation with offering things, some of which are going to work and some of which are not. But I think that ultimately, when we think about, for example, that Roblox example, I didn't know what Roblox was until the kids in my life told me what it was, right? And it's just that sort of network effect. If you think about the same thing with social media, I didn't know what Facebook was until all my friends and all my family were talking about it. And I think that same thing is going to happen with Web3. I think there are extraordinary opportunities for entrepreneurs. I think there are extraordinary opportunities for professionals to spend some time and learn this space. And because we're still early, you can be the expert in your field. And if you have a customer base where you can really provide enough value to them, that there's a cadence and they say, well, there's something about that that's different than I've experienced elsewhere, but it's so valuable that I'm willing to give it a try, then you will earn the respect and trust of your community, and they will trust you as you do more offerings. And what that does from a business perspective is that creates moats, right? We all know about moats in business, that first mover advantage that is going to provide value to you that others who are timid about the technology may not be able to take advantage of.
Wow. I mean, hey, everyone, listen to this gal speak about this technology. I mean, I'm super excited. I'm like, I had to tell you, after I heard your interview in that other show, I immediately started Googling Web 3.0. And I'm thinking, oh, how could I get ahead of this opportunity to learn a new technology and share that information with my colleagues in the small business arena? Well, we're already running out of time. I can't believe it. But what is the best place? How can people find you if they want to learn more about your services or resources or anything of that nature?
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me that opportunity. Just like you found me, the best place to connect is on LinkedIn. I have made it, because I believe that representation matters, I have made it a point of making myself available to speak on podcasts, at conferences, and so forth. I would definitely invite others, if you know particularly of opportunities to speak to women or communities of color who might look at this and say, I don't know where I fit in. I love to help people understand where they fit in and encourage them to bring their tool set and their skills into this space. So LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. Again, my name is JoAnn Holmes. And what I try to do on LinkedIn and also on the homepage of the homesetlaw.com website is to really aggregate and talk about the places where I speak, so that people can hopefully have a trusted voice that they can listen to break down some of these concepts, to understand how to apply them to their business and their professional life. And if you are at a point where you're ready to move forward in designing Web3 offers, or you're already here and you need some legal or strategy support, again, the Homes at Law website will show you the ways that I work with clients. I'm happy to be a resource.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, JoAnn.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you, Denise.